because it's called the city of exception because of its character. We have what is called zoning, that is composed of community advocates, experts, technicians who know more about sorry. So we have experts in the zoning that are able to maintain the character of the community. So I know as there is some space left with community input and with the council's input, with the feedback and the survey from majority of the community living around those areas, I believe working along with the zoning, what is the best for the city is the best option. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lynn, you're next. What specific business tax changes do you propose that will promote a small business growth and make Johns Creek a competitive environment to attract larger businesses? Would these have a positive or negative impact on the tax revenues? Over here.
Thank you. I've been a small business owner for the last 27 years, and I have engaged a good number of small businesses in the area. During this campaign, I have spent some time to review our city tax structure for the small business within our city limit. And almost no exception that our current tax structure, including our occupational tax, there is no, majority of them tells me that the burden is actually from the state and also on the federal level. City, frankly, many of them said, if a small business in the business today cannot afford the city tax, then they can't be in the business at all. So I think the current tax system is working.
Mr. Carbonell. No exemptions have been made for medical professionals who provide therapeutic massage within Johns Creek under our new massage laws. State licensed massage therapists have chosen to work outside of Johns Creek because of this ordinance. Will you review this law to eliminate the negative consequences on legitimate businesses?
Well, let me start by saying that I'm not an attorney. However, common sense would dictate that you would really have to review almost on a case-by-case basis who's doing what, just simply to avoid what we don't want here in our community. That's pretty much how I would approach it.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Mr. Mizra, last but certainly not least. Most candidates claim to be conservative. What does that term specifically mean to you?
Conservative, in my opinion, is valuing your family, your community, not become too liberal, not talk for some kind of different kind of lifestyle, and be very friendly and be very nice to everyone in the community, in the family. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, that is the end of round one. We're going to start round two now. And I'm going to start with Mr. Kaufman. And your question is, would you support a citizen's review of the city charter? Will you support the recommendations and work to implement them?
Yes, most certainly. I would, in fact, like to get another charter commission in practice so we can get the citizens to start reviewing the charter and see what changes would like to be implemented. I think a few of the things that I would implement would be term limits for council members, increasing the homestead exemption, stopping the burden of taxation on our homeowners. I would also adjust our council districting. I would do a hybrid model of at-large and districting. So we would kind of mitigate the cons of each one of those models. So those are the few things I would adjust in the charter, but I would definitely propose that we get a charter commission going ASAP.
Okay, Mr. Broadbent. This question will be directed your way. What are some of the shortcomings you have seen from the current city council over the last 12 months? If elected, what will you specifically do or recommend that addresses these shortcomings?
Well, that's an interesting question. As I noted in my opening remarks, I've worked incredibly hard for the city over the past 16 months. I see my friend Councilman Lenny Soprowski standing in the back. Together with our other council members and Mayor Bacher, we've worked as a great team. We've never always agreed. You know, occasionally Lenny and I are on the different side of issues, Bob Gray and I are on the different side of issues. But each and every time, we have a great debate. We look at the facts, we look at it from the other's perspective, and in the end we have a vote that I think has served Johns Creek well. I'm very pleased about how the 5 members of council, including myself, have worked over the past year, and I'm certainly not looking at any shortcomings at this point. I think I'm asking for everybody's support so we can continue doing the great work over the next 4 years that we've done over the last 16 months since I joined council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Hanson. Would you have voted for the rollback millage rate, or would you have allowed the rate to stay the same, thereby raising taxes?
Thank you, and thank you for this question. I cannot tell you if I would have voted to roll back because there was not a proper business case presented for either direction. We have a lot of infrastructure issues in the city. There are a lot of roads, hundreds of miles of interior roads that need to be repaved that have not been touched since 2006. I am thrilled that the council is accelerating that program, but there's a lot. At the same time, we were having a conversation about whether or not we should roll back, and the 10-year plan that was not in the packet but was given to council members at the meeting did not include significant amounts of funding. I don't fault council for that. Council voted with what they needed to do given the fact that they did not have the information in front of them to properly determine whether or not the millage rate could be rolled back. I do believe, based on the knowledge I have, that the millage rate can be rolled back and it can be rolled back soon. I would not have voted to roll it back at this meeting.
Ms. Andres? The more you tax something, the less you get. Should we reduce our business taxes to equal those of our neighboring communities, which we are competing with in a competitive economic environment?
Absolutely. We tax our businesses at gross receipts, net profit, and the number of employees that they have. Coming right out the door, they're spending thousands of dollars before they've even started driving their first revenue. We make it difficult for small business to run, and the forms and filings that are required are pretty restrictive. I think that we need to reduce those. Most of those small businesses are being run by our neighbors, and those are the people that are living next door to you. And I think we want them to be as prosperous as they can, because the more money that they're able to drive in revenue and keep for themselves, the more they can reinvest in their business and invest in their own lives. So, yes, I believe we need to roll them back. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lynn? Your question is, would you support an ordinance on the number of campaign signs that can be deployed in a given mile of roadway?
Oh, I love this question.
For example, each candidate would be allowed X number of signs per mile.
It would be 10,000 signs.
You want the mic?
If I can answer this question after the campaign. think the sign, the purpose of the sign is for communication. You know, especially at the city council level, the election, this is a perfect opportunity to engage the voters and to share the platform and issues with you. But out of a city that has 84,000 population, we're still looking at less than 100 people in the room. So how do we engage? You know, as a business person, I know what it takes to get a job done, and therefore, in my opinion, that what's most important is to get the name recognition along with our platform and to engage the voters. Because without engagement, we cannot get our issues across. And therefore, that's important. I think for the time being, I love those signs.
We are moving to Ms. Dowling. And your question is, do you support using non-binding referendums to see where residents of the city fall on important issues, such as how much park space should we add and how much we would want to spend on those parks?
I believe in improving and enhancing the quality of life in Johns Creek. Out of the thousands or 1,000+ voters that I've talked to in the past 3 or 4 months, they've expressed an interest in pocket parks. They want their kids to be out, they want more green space, they want good quality of life by coming out, they want more sidewalks to walk. And with that said, I come from a healthcare background, the healthcare profession, where health is defined as not merely an absence of a disease, but mental, social, physical, and environmental well-being. So yes, I believe in park space. It's a joint effort. We can get crowdsourced funding. We can build public-private partnership to get more park space and also conservation easement. So yes, I believe in more green space in parks.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Misra. Residential properties make up 81% of our property tax digest. Should we be working to enhance the values of those properties more than commercial properties?
Yes, I will suggest that we reduced our millage rate a little last year, and we also enhanced the value of the properties. So the lower millage rate didn't end up in having lower taxes for residents. Residents still paid more taxes than 2 years ago. We need to reduce millage rate. We need to have less taxes, and we need to have more businesses established inside the city limits, which can generate more taxes, and that will help the residents to pay lesser taxes, and we can still continue supporting our institutions with higher taxes from the business entities.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Carmona. Should tax dollars be distributed to nonprofit organizations? Is there a risk of an appearance of conflict of interest? Should all nonprofits within Johns Creek receive equal support?
Well, yes, everybody should be heard equally. Everybody should come before the city and pledge their case, whether you're a commercial interest or a nonprofit. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, sir. Let's see, I think I'm starting, let's see, Mr. Burkhalter, this is yours. Today, citizens have 3 minutes to address the City Council, and City Council members are not allowed to engage or ask follow-up questions generally. Would you support increasing this to 5 minutes and to allow a back and forth between the council and citizens as other governments do? What do you suggest for greater citizen involvement?
think that's a great question. Anytime you can get more citizen involvement, I think that's a good thing. However, I do believe that the council meetings, for many of you, I'm sure have attended them and see that there's oftentimes plenty of open space. So I don't deem it necessary to extend the length of time during that session. Most of the council members, and Steve, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think are very available. I know if I'm elected, I've posted my cell phone number on every piece of literature that's out there, and I'm very willing and open to sitting down over a cup of coffee and understanding the ideas that are important to all of us.
And Mr. Bradford, last but not least for this round. If you had $1 million at your disposal tomorrow to invest on behalf of the city, where would you choose to invest it in Johns Creek?
I would choose to invest it in infrastructure, primarily the subdivisions that are dilapidated roads, and I think it's going to take more than that, for sure. So